Hey, what's up, everybody? This is steviebreech coming to you. I was recently trying to explain to somebody what WWE Access was. Just going there and just meeting the wrestlers and how much of a fan you are when you actually get to meet, some of the guys. And the person that I was, explaining it to was asking me, like, don't you really, sort of feel stupid, going out and, meeting these guys that are on television and acting like they're such a big deal. Like they didn't really just understand. So I was really trying to get it through my head just how much of a fan you are. And I told them an embarrassing story, which I don't think I've ever shared to anybody, like on Skype or anything like that. But it was back in, I don't know really what year this was. It had to have been like 2004, maybe somewhere around there. Um, I used to really listen to a lot of sports radio back in the day. I used to really like to call in and talk and so like that. But I would listen. That's how I would relax in the day. I didn't used to watch a whole lot of television unless it was wrestling or sports. If I was sitting on the computer, I'd always have the radio on, and I'd always somebody would call in, and I'd fight along with them, and it was pretty funny. I actually used to actually fall asleep at the radio rather than fall asleep at the TV. But there was a guy on in Sacramento. His name was Tim Montemayor, and he was Monty till midnight, and he was a good show that I really liked before he moved away to go to St. Louis. Um, but one night, they didn't hype it at all. I listened to the show every night. They just opened up the show with who they were running down, who was going to be there, who their interviews were for the day, and and they said Kurt Angle will be in studio, and I was like, what? I was like, whoa, holy cow! And you know how a lot of people like use Twitter and stuff to locate where wrestlers are when they know they're coming into town for the shows, the arenas, or where they go out to eat and stuff like that. That really wasn't around or anything like that. So for a tip to a wrestler was gonna be was it was a pretty big deal. And honestly, at that time, I had never met a wrestler. The first wrestler that I ever met was Edge at well no I had met Edge twice. He was really sort of the first wrestler I ever met, and then he was the first wrestler I ever met again. I went to like an autograph signing at a car dealership to win some tickets, and I really didn't even care that I was meeting Edge and Christian that day. I didn't really care. All I wanted to do was win some Raw tickets, and I did. I went to the show, and then years later, I paid whatever it was to meet Edge at Access at SummerSlam, uh, and then I really did care that time. But anyways, for a tip to where a wrestler was going to be was actually a pretty big deal, and honestly, the studio where they do the radio show was right around the corner from my house. I lived, to say a mile is just exaggerating it. It was nothing. I could have walked there if I really wanted to. But anyway, so I didn't have a DVD collection or a wrestling collection like I have now. I didn't really have much of anything, and the only thing I could think to grab was my King of the Ring 2001 DVD, which honestly he's not on the cover, and so so for some people it really wouldn't have mattered that much if he would have signed it. But this to me is the ultimate Kurt Angle event. He wrestles on this three times. The whole storyline that they ran through on this between him and Shane is just excellent. Angle is involved in the King of the Ring tournament. First round, he has to fight Rhino. Wins that match, and he has to fight Edge. During that match, there's a disqualification from Shane McMahon. Right after the match ends, Shane McMahon attacks him, and they start their match from there. So everybody in the world knows that Shane's not going to beat Kurt unless he outsmarts him. So he makes him fight two real matches before he has to fight a real match, um, at the end. So I mean, it is just brilliance. And then the match that Shane and Kurt give us is, a top of the line, one of my favorite matches of all time. I don't even know if it's really a match, if it's a hardcore match, but just the feats that they go through with Kurt throwing Shane through the glass, and the fact that they didn't want to like give up on the bump after they failed to throw him through the glass twice, and he kept lining Shane on his head. That they kept doing it is just it makes it even better. But I grabbed this and I headed over there. I had to park in the parking lot. There's no back door because the way that the studio is, its studio is almost just like a house that is in the beginning of a neighborhood. Um, so I knew there was no real back door that they could sneak him in. I sat in that parking lot in my car because it's nighttime. Most of the shows, only have one person that's on them. So the parking lot only had like 4 or 5 cars in it, and there was me. And so I really just sort of sat in my car and waited for, if Angle was going to be there. He was just gonna have to pull up to the front door or pull into one of the regular parking spots, and it'd be pretty easy for him to meet him. But anyways, I just sat in the car and I listened to that show for 2 hours of a 3 hour show before I finally was like, I think I really had to go to the bathroom, and that was the one reason why I was thinking about leaving. So I finally called up the show, and not called into the show, but I just called, and the producer that answered the phone. I just was like, "Hey, I thought you guys said you guys were gonna have Kurt Angle in studio tonight." I didn't act like I was in the parking lot. I didn't want him to know that I was stalking him, because now when I look back on it, that is really what I was doing. And he just vented. He just let loose. I guess they had planned to have him in there, and they booked him as a guest. But the rock show, like when you do radio promotions, somebody drives you around. He went into the rock station and he did an interview with them. Somehow he hooked up with those guys, and they sort of took him to Hooters, and so he wasn't gonna be making the rounds. He was like, "Oh, he bumped us. The rock station stole us, took him out to Hooters. We can't really compete with Hooters that much." And so the rock station took him out for some beer and some wings. And the way I'm saying isn't really the way the guy was saying it. Like, he was like really unloading on me. He was pissed. And so he got rescheduled for the next morning. The next morning, um, I wasn't able to go down there and meet him, but I really wish that I would have had a chance to meet Kurt Angle. And he is a wrestler that I am hoping to meet somewhere along the way. He sort of evaded me by getting injured and not coming to Sacramento for that TNA house show. But Angle's always been one of my favorite wrestlers. I think he's a little crazy in the head now, Ultimate Warrior style. But I'll get him someday.